I mean, how do you digest what you're doing so early? I mean, are you impressed by what you're doing yourself?
Yeah, I am impressed. I heard that it has never been done in the league ever before. So, I mean, wish I could have had a quadruple double with blocks. Shout out Hassan Whiteside. But I mean, like I said, I just went out there and played basketball.
He played basketball indeed. Welcome to SI Now Live. I'm Robin Lundberg. He's Ryan Acelta. That was Joel Embiid, who got busy all over Lonzo Ball and the Lakers to the tune of 46, 17, 7, and 7 in a Sixers win, making him the first player in recorded history to hit those totals in those four categories. The runaway favorite for Rookie of the Year, Ben Simmons, also totally outplayed his counterpart Lonzo Ball and was one rebound shy of a triple-double. Ryan, we know Steve Kerr dubbed the Celtics the team of the future in the East, but could it actually be the Sixers?
No, Robin. Take nothing away from Embiid. He was a beast last night. But this is what I have to say to Philly, the process, the excitement. Slow your roll. This team is 8-6, Robin. They have played nobody. 2 of those wins out of 8 have come against winning teams. The combined record, Robin, of their other 6 wins is 29-59. That's the record of those teams, the bottom dwellers of the NBA. I think that we're going to see what this team's made of the next couple weeks. Next 7 games, 6 of them against winning teams. You've got the Warriors in the mix. You've got the Celtics in the mix. Portland, the Wizards, bunch of good teams on the schedule. Then we'll get a sense of where this team's at. That'll be about a quarter of the way through the season. But slow down. The Celtics are a proven team, playoff tested, with proven veterans on that team to go along with the young talent.
The Celtics are definitely better in the present, and I really like where the Eastern Conference is headed. For all the jokes about the Eastern Conference, it's about to be the Beastern Conference. I love the fact that Northeast basketball is back. You bring in Milwaukee with Giannis. The Knicks look like they could be on the come up, and then you have Boston and Philadelphia. This is a very tough question in my mind because Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid look like cornerstone type of generational talents. And when you can build around that, you're good money. However, I give the slight edge to Boston now because of depth and coaching. With Boston, you have Kyrie, you have Tatum, you have Brown, and you go on and on down the roster, and we know what Brad Stevens has been able to do. The wild card to me is Markelle Fultz. If Fultz can join Embiid and Simmons and Covington, who's a really nice role player, I think, on a good team, then the Sixers could be right in that mix. But the future's looking good for both those squads.
Yeah, I agree. Down the road, a couple years, I think the Sixers, the Knicks are showing talent, you said, Giannis and the Bucks. But you're telling me there's only a small gap right now between the Sixers and the Celtics? I'm not seeing that. I think there's a much wider gap between the Sixers and the teams we talked about and teams like the Celtics and the Cavs.
I agree there's a gap now. I'm talking about looking forward into the future. I mean, this is the first year that Ben Simmons has played. Hopefully, it's the first full year that Joel Embiid gets to play. And when those guys have been out there, they've been more than effective. They've been, absolutely blockbuster. So if those 2 guys can continue that play and they can build around, the Sixers could be that team. Right now, I like the rest of the pieces around the cornerstones of the Celtics.
Yeah, so much hinging on the health of those 2. Well, as good as Embiid was last night, Lonzo Ball may have been just that bad. Ball showing that regardless of where you're drafted, being a rookie in the NBA ain't easy. Ball finished with just 2 points and 1 of 9 shooting, including 0 for 6 from three-point land. Second straight game, Robin. Lonzo spent the 4th quarter on the bench. He's now 15 games into the season. A little bit of a sample size here. Has Ball been a bust?
Well, we could play with the words here. We were talking about the future before. Has he been a bust? Yes. So far, Lonzo Ball has been a bust outside of the game where he was the youngest player ever to record a triple-double. I won't label him a bust yet because it is still a young season. It is still his first season. And he still plays in a seasoned fashion in most facets of the game. He has a very good feel for the game. You can see that. But none of that will matter at all if he's a self-check. If he's not able to shoot from distance, if he's not able to finish on drives, and his shooting percentages are putrid across the board right now, about 30% from the field, 23% I believe from 3, and just 50% from the line. That is historically bad shooting. And I don't care what you're doing in the other categories if that's the case. We've learned today in the NBA they're just going to sag off you if they're not afraid of you. And right now it's in his head a little bit. If he can improve that, then I think he could be a very good player. I don't know if he's ever going to be a great player due to those limitations. But if this continues, yeah, he will eventually wind up a
Yeah, and you look back at the track record, he was a decent shooter at UCLA. 51% from the floor, 41% from three-point land. But he didn't shoot a ton. He only took about 10 shots per game. He's actually taking more shots per game as an NBA player. And overall, I don't think that's why the Lakers brought him in. I think they want him to be that 12-point, 8 assists, 6-rebound type of guy, at least as a rookie, until that shot develops. Because, let's face it, he's not a lights-out shooter, never really has been.
Yeah, D'Angelo Russell was a much better scorer at that position, and they shipped him out. And, you know, LiAngelo Ball hasn't been the best rookie on the Lakers. Kyle Kuzma has been.
Yeah, all right. Well, in the NFL, the feud between Jerry Jones and the NFL continues to escalate. For more on what we can realistically expect legally, let's welcome in SI legal expert Michael McCann. And Michael, the NFL Wednesday sent a letter to the attorney of Jerry Jones accusing the Cowboys owner of, quote, conduct detrimental to the league's best interests. Now, the letter stems from Jones' objection, of course, to the contract extension for Commissioner Roger Goodell. Michael, what does the letter mean, and is the NFL setting themselves up for some kind of legal action against Jones here?
Yeah, Ryan, I think the letter is in part a signal to Jones that if Jones were to sue the NFL would in turn countersue Jones. That's a minimal point of the letter, is that the league believes it has a legal argument that Jones is being unduly disruptive to the league in a way that could be considered unlawful, specifically in terms of his obligations under the league constitution to be cooperative and potential other legal claims. So it's sending a signal to Jones that if Jones were to move forward, and he's hired David Boies, a very prominent attorney, to explore the possibility of suing the league, that the league would countersue him.
Legally, Michael, is there any scenario that would allow the NFL owners to oust Jones and force him to sell or give up the Cowboys?
Well, Ryan, under the league constitution, it is possible to terminate the ownership of an owner if the league, as well as at least 3/4 of owners, approve of it. But I think, being realistic, it's very hard to envision that scenario playing out here. For one, while Jones maybe has been disruptive and dissenting, that's hardly the kind of conduct that I think would likely convince 3/4 of owners that it ought to lead to the expulsion of an owner. And moreover, I think some owners may agree with Jones, but even if they don't agree with him, even if they don't like him, they may be worried about precedent, that if Jones gets kicked out of the league here, what other kinds of actions by owners could lead to expulsion? That could cause some owners to be nervous, particularly as they're thinking about whether it's a good investment to own an NFL team.
You know, the league against Jerry Jones, the league against Colin Kaepernick, you could argue all of these high-profile squabbles have been detrimental to the league. Michael, I'm sure we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, as always, for your insight.
Thank you.
Many of us learned the name Nathan Peterman yesterday. That after the Bills announced the rookie fifth-rounder would start over Tyrod Taylor. This just days after Coach Sean McDermott vouched for Taylor as the starter. Do the Bills know what they're doing?
Yeah, I don't think so, especially Sean McDermott. And I'm starting to question his mindset here, because you heard his quotes after getting blown out by the Jets a couple weeks ago on Thursday night. And I thought they were refreshing and reasonable. He said, we're not going to panic. We lost a game. We're 5-3. We come back next week and win. We're 6-3. Nothing to see here. No big deal. Well, a week goes by. They lose again. What happened? What happened to that mindset? This is a panic mood. He's pulled his quarterback after putting his support behind Tyrod Taylor. Let's not forget, Robin, this is a playoff team right now. They are the 6th seed in the AFC. I'm not sure what McDermott is doing, waffling, going back and forth. From a guy who said he's not panicking, this screams of panic up in Buffalo.
We've seen some bad quarterback play throughout the league this year, and I wouldn't single out Tyrod Taylor amongst that group. Statistically, he's actually been pretty good. You know, anytime there's a rookie, people want to get to see that guy play, but so far the Bills' season and Taylor's resume on the season doesn't seem to necessitate this change. So either they're panicking or the thinking organizationally is something else. And maybe they're spinning it back to what we thought the Bills were doing earlier in the year, and they realize, hey, we don't have a really good team. We're not actually trying to compete, so let's press the fast forward button on the rebuild, but it doesn't seem fair to Taylor.
No, and if you're a Bills fan, this is a 5th-round draft pick you're going to here. You're not a veteran who might be able to right the ship and continue on this playoff path. And we're not talking about a team that's 2-7. They're 5-4. You can't make a change to an unproven guy. He called it, McDermott, a calculated risk. This is an idiotic risk.
Yeah, if you were to say at the beginning of the season the Bills would be 5-4 at this point, we'd go, success. Great success.
Exactly. And success equals playoffs. That's what they are right now. We'll see. In college hoops, Robin, UCLA escaped disaster Wednesday night, beating little-known Central Arkansas in overtime. Well, the Bruins, they're dealing with the fallout from 3 players' arrests for shoplifting in China. All 3 have returned to the United States, and Wednesday all 3, including LiAngelo Ball, apologized for their actions abroad.
I'd like to start off by saying sorry for stealing from the stores in China. I didn't exercise my best judgment, and I was wrong for that. I apologize to my family, my coaches, my teammates, and UCLA for letting so many people down. I also apologize to the people of China for causing them so much trouble. I'm a young man, however, it's not an excuse for making a really stupid decision. I don't feel sorry for myself, and I've learned my lesson from this big mistake, and I'm 110% sure that I'll not make a bad decision like this one again.
Now, Ball, Cody, Riley, and Jalen Hill have all been suspended indefinitely by the university following those arrests in China. Robin, do you agree with the way the school is handling this with the indefinite suspension?
It depends on what indefinite means. I'm not saying there shouldn't be any sort of ramifications for the actions. Obviously, what they did was dumb and wrong, and you heard LiAngelo Ball confess to as much. But I think he said the right things. The next thing is if he follows up and they follow up with their actions. If they do so, I don't think this is something that should be heavy-handed because they are very young. And this is not the kind of thing where I would want to punish them further, because by punishing them to an extreme degree, I think you more likely increase the chances of something bad happening rather than them being able to go out and immediately, redeem themselves and not repeat those mistakes, as he said.
Well, the school is considering, it sounds like, a half-year suspension or a full-year suspension.
See, to me, that is too much.
It could be very interesting here because a half year, they'd come back for conference play, plenty of time. I think they'd be okay with that. Full-year suspension, they could look to transfer. Now, let's face it, you called this mistake. They called this young kids making a mistake. This wasn't kids trashing their hotel room, though. This was a criminal act in a foreign country. They are lucky to be back in the United States at this point. So I think the hand has to be a little heavy here. And this was supposed to be a goodwill mission, UCLA going there. The chancellor of the school and his family went there. This was an embarrassment to UCLA, the university. If they want to take a stand here, then they suspend them for the season, regardless of that threat of them transferring to another program.
Well, where it took place, could enhance the judgment error, right?
But
it doesn't enhance the act. And I'm not going to sit here and apologize for them or what they did. What they did was wrong. That's a duh, right? It's one of the things you would list. Stealing is wrong. But there are a lot of 19-year-old kids who have done far worse, and there are a lot of 19-year-old kids who have done the same and gone on to be just fine. So that's where I pause before we say, this is something we have to set the strongest example forever going forward, when I think it's better for them, for the school, and for everybody else to move on once you set the initial punishment.
Yeah, it should be interesting to see how the decision plays out, because whether basketball plays a role or if this is strictly a university punishment handed down. Steve Alford has kind of put it in the hands of the school, saying this is university policy when it comes to the suspension of a student. That's the way it's being handled. We'll see if it stays that way.
Yeah, don't shoplift those real big baller brands. At long last, the World Cup field is set. With Peru's victory over New Zealand, we have the 32 teams who will be competing in Russia. The qualification, wild and surprising. So we welcome in Grant Wall. Grant, let's first start with some of the teams who didn't make it. Along with the U.S. men's national team, Italy, Chile, and the Netherlands are among the teams who won't be in Russia next summer. And with that, some of soccer's biggest names won't be playing on the game's biggest stage. We compiled a starting 11 made up of stars who did not qualify. We have Pulisic, Buffon, Bale, among others. On the other end, we're seeing a lot of new teams entering the field. So is it a good sign that soccer is growing, or is it a negative that so many superstars and so many iconic teams won't be competing?
You know, Robin, I think it's actually both because, the reasons that the U.S. and Italy and the Netherlands and Chile all missed out on this World Cup is they didn't play well enough in qualifying and they weren't as good as they've been in previous cycles. So, in my opinion, they deserve not to make it. But it's not just a one-way situation here because you've got several other teams that have qualified for the World Cup. And I think there are more teams that are improving around the world. And we're seeing that in Iceland making the World Cup for the first time, Panama making the World Cup for the first time, improvement in teams like Poland, which won its European group and could actually go pretty deep in the tournament. Even teams like Senegal, Morocco, they're a lot better than they used to be, and they'll be in this World Cup. So I understand why people will be disappointed that some of the big-name teams and stars won't be involved, but I think they'll be excited by teams like Iceland, from the smallest country ever to qualify for a World Cup, and they could actually go fairly deep in this tournament.
Grant, the U.S., of course, will not be at the World Cup, but the men's national team announced that it is exploring the idea of creating an NIT-style tournament involving some of the teams that did not qualify for the World Cup. I'm shaking my head here. I want to get your take. Do you see this happening, first of all, and would it be worthwhile for these teams, or is just really a cash grab here?
This is such an American thing. And, the more I think about it, the more I'm kind of bothered by the idea. The most important thing for the U.S. men's national team next year is to get as many good games as possible with this very young group as they prepare for World Cup 2022 in Qatar. So for that to happen, they should play some friendlies in Europe right before the World Cup against good teams that will be playing in the World Cup and will have something to play for, and just get some good games. I don't think you want to set up some NIT for soccer in the United States. That to me just seems like this sort of American cash grab that we so often see with soccer games in the United States that don't mean a heck of a lot. Just play some friendlies and let the players have some time off in the summer from their club and national team schedule. They don't get many summers off, and I think that's a good thing with as many games as these guys play. And let's look forward to getting this U.S. team better so it can qualify for the next World Cup.
As we all know, the NIT in college basketball doesn't draw a ton of interest.
The winners are the losers.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Grant, let's start to break down the field of 32 teams here. Sweden was the team that eliminated Italy, and now questions surround whether the country's biggest star, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, will rejoin the team for the World Cup. Now, Sweden's head coach has stated that Zlatan will not be rejoining the team, but Ibrahimovic wants to play. What do you think? Should they bring him back?
Well, this would be a fascinating story to follow in the coming months. Zlatan Ibrahimovic had announced his international retirement a while back, but now that Sweden is in this World Cup, he can certainly help them if he's at full strength. Now, he needs to come back after this big knee injury he's had, play for Manchester United, and get some games in. And then I think it's a situation where you can decide with the Swedish national team coach and teammates and federation, do you want Zlatan at the World Cup? I think he could help Sweden quite a bit if he is being Zlatan and he's at full strength. And Sweden did qualify for the World Cup, so that's impressive, but they didn't do it playing great soccer. So if you look at their front line, he would be a definite upgrade.
When you talk about this tournament, mentioning making a big deal of the U.S. men's national team not making the World Cup, but Italy is missing the tournament for the first time since 1958. How devastating is this for Azzurri, and how will this affect the legacies of Buffon and some of the other longtime players?
Well, this is totally devastating for Italy. This is a country that's won 4 World Cups, and everyone expects them to be at the World Cup. I love Gigi Buffon. He's one of my favorite players of the last 20 years. He was trying to set a record for World Cups played in this tournament. Now he's played his final game and retired from the national team, at least. We'll still see him at club level with Juventus, but you could see him just in tears after the game, apologizing to the Italian people. And people are angry over there. I spoke to Paolo Maldini this week, the legendary player for Italy, and he couldn't even process the idea of Italy missing a World Cup. So they're going to have some big questions, just as we have here in the U.S. right now, about what they need to do to get back on track. Keep in mind, Italy didn't do well at the 2010 World Cup, where they failed to get out of the opening round and the 2014 World Cup where they failed to get out of the opening round. Now they've missed the World Cup altogether. They haven't played a knockout game in the World Cup since they won the tournament in 2006. So, Italian soccer needs to take a long, hard look in the mirror, just as we are here in the U.S., and get things turned around.
We touched on it before. There are a lot of new teams, with Italy out, of course, and surprise teams in the field, Iceland, Morocco. Is there a surprise team that you're looking forward to seeing on the big stage?
I'm really curious to see how Morocco is going to do, because this is a team that is traditionally underachieved based on its talent level and failed to make the World Cup in recent cycles. They've made it this time. And when you look at how they performed in qualifying, in 6 qualifying games in the final round against tough competition in Africa, they did not concede a single goal. So that's a very impressive thing. If you don't give up goals, you always give yourself a chance no matter what happens at the attacking end of the field. And they've got this coach, Hervé Renard, who is a French guy who's had so much success over the years coaching different African teams. He coached Ivory Coast at the last World Cup, and he has really turned Morocco into a team that is no longer an underachiever. They're an overachiever that I think could do some damage in Russia.
Thanks, Grant. It'll be very interesting to see how all this plays out.
All right, take care.
It's not the World Cup, but college football is entering the stretch run. I had a chance to talk to the quarterback of the 14th ranked team in the country. Joined now by Washington State quarterback Luke Falk, who is courtesy of Toyota. Let's go places. Now, Luke, you now own every major passing record in Pac-12 history. Do you think you get talked about enough for what you've accomplished?
I think that's just a good team award. I think it's good team records. I mean, I've played with a lot of guys over my years here at Washington State. And, the notoriety or the recognition we don't really care about. We just want to win games here. And, we're one game away from our goal, the Pac-12 championship. So that's really what's on our mind.
You guys got Washington next up. I mean, for people outside of state, they may not realize what the rivalry could be there. How much do you hate that team and want to beat them?
We haven't beat them since my time here, so we really want this one. And, it's the last time we get to play these guys. And, so we definitely want to go out as a senior class on top.
You're ready for the pros with those answers. I'm telling you, polished. The next game on the schedule and all that stuff, it's a team. It's a team award. All right, separating yourself. Maybe this makes it easier if you're not involved. Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, Mason Rudolph. Who do you think is the best pro QB prospect in the country right now?
I think they're all great. I think that they have, different skills that, separate them. I mean, Baker's an elusive guy. Sam, we played against him this year. I mean, he does incredible things. Josh is a great pocket passer. And, Mason, seeing him on TV before games, I mean, he does a lot of good stuff. So really, they got their own unique way, and they're fun to watch.
What about Lamar Jackson? Do you see his skills translating to the pros?
I mean, when you're that athletic and you can make plays like that, I mean, most definitely. I mean, he's fun to watch. He was the Heisman for a reason, and we don't get to see many of his games that much. But when you see the highlights, you're just like, wow, how does he do that?
All right, give me a scouting report on yourself now. If I'm a prospective team looking to possibly draft you, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses?
Definitely my speed, probably number one. I'm just kidding, but no, probably accuracy. Just you can make plays in the pocket, can get us in the right play calls, winner, one up here, and, definitely a team guy, team-oriented guy, and just lay it all on the line for my team, I'd say.
If you were on the playoff committee, what would your top 4 in the country be right now?
Well, I'd throw the Cougs up in there, and obviously Alabama, and then whoever the unbeatens are, like probably Wisconsin, Miami, and I'll throw Oklahoma in there.
All right. Of those teams, which one would you least like to face?
I don't have a problem with any of them. I think it'd be fun to play all of them. I mean, I think it'd be pretty cool to play Alabama, just the storied program that they are. And, I actually went to an Alabama game in high school, and I thought it'd be pretty cool to, play against them. So that'd be a fun one.
There was a time I was in college, very long time ago, graduated in 2004. I'm just interested in what college kids are into now. What's your favorite current show?
Favorite current show is definitely Game of Thrones. I know I kind of got onto it a little late, but I just finished it actually last week, and my mind's blown. I mean, that it pretty much took over my life on the road. Anytime we played a road game, I was watching like 10 episodes. So, you know, that's been my life this season.
What about your favorite current movie?
Oh, I like Forrest Gump. I mean, that's always my go-to. Great music, you know, great storyline. Dude's just an overachiever, and you know, I don't know what Jenny's seeing, you know, the whole movie. She's just got to give it Forrest and call it a day. Are
you sure you're in college? That movie has been around a while. Not that it's not a good one. All right, favorite current album.
I've liked it forever. Yeah, I've liked it forever. But right now, I think the biggest thing right now is, you know, the Xbox One just came out with Call of Duty, you know, World War II. So we, as a team, this bye week, we've been playing that a lot. And, you know, I don't have an Xbox, but it's got split screen. So that's been a huge game changer. So I've been able to play with the guys. And so that's what us college kids are doing these days. Is that where we can get you to talk trash? You could take anybody down in Call of Duty? I think if I had my roommate Peyton Pooler, I mean, he's incredible on there. His kill-death ratio is outstanding. I think I got a little work to do, but if I had him on my squad, I think I could beat anybody. All right, there you go. We finally got something out of you. Good luck with the rest of your season, man. Appreciate you being a good sport. Luke Falk, quarterback, Washington State. All right, thanks, guys. Go Cougs.
Luke, kind of a throwback. Forrest Gump, Robin.
An old soul.
Yeah, I guess so. Oh, speaking of old souls, 2004 college grads, a long time ago?
Yeah, it feels like it to me.
Yeah, I'm not going to even get into my year.
Washed.
We're going to skip over that. Of course, along with streaming live on SI.com, we're joining you on Facebook Live, getting a ton of great interaction from our viewers today on a lot of different topics. LiAngelo Ball, the UCLA kids, Jerry Jones. Bill Wagerin says some interesting things about the guys in China that got arrested. You're stupid to put youth as an excuse for stealing. I think 1 year suspension is justifiable minimum penalty. Anyone with common sense should know it's wrong to steal from a store, even more so being in a foreign country and potentially being subject to their laws. Great goodwill mission, fellas. We talked a lot about that. I'm leaning a little more on the heavy hand here than you, I think, when it comes to these guys.
Of course it's stupid, and of course it's wrong. I mean, these are does. But my thought is, yes, youth it's not a justification, but we tend to make, most of us that are well-rounded people, our biggest mistakes when we are younger. And this is not the type of thing that I don't think there is retribution from. This is not the type of thing that is going to make some sort of blanket condemnation, from my perspective at least.
Yeah.
John Belden sends in Sixers Celtics would be nice to see that rivalry again. I totally agree.
Yeah.
You know, Northeast basketball is sort of the haven in a lot of ways with the Lakers on the West Coast there, and it has been dormant. If you get the Celtics and the Sixers and
the Knicks, throw them in there, absolutely.
If we can say the Knicks, then we're in business.
Hey, New York's known as the mecca of basketball for a reason. It just hasn't looked that way in a long time.
It's not known for a reason. It's just known.
Go way back. Yes, it was. You know, but obviously the last 20 years it hasn't been that way. But I agree. You get the Celtics involved with the Sixers and the Knicks type of rivalry. That would be a lot of fun. A lot of support. We threw the question out, whose side of the debate you're on, the NFL or Jerry Jones. I mean, almost everyone is on the side of Jerry Jones on this one. Surprised?
No, just because Roger Goodell is very, very unpopular, and he has been the face of the NFL. So make sure you send those comments in on Facebook, on Twitter, and we will get to them on every day's edition of SI Now Live. But there is some important news. SI TV launches today. It will feature world-class journalism, exclusive access to athletes, original documentaries, brand new studio shows, SI Swimsuit Originals, stories from the SI Vault, as well as some of your favorite sports movies. It will be available on Amazon channels at noon, so take a look for yourself.
What are you talking about?
Like people, oh, how you do this? How you do that? Like it's normal to me.
I decided I needed to stop trying to be Mr. Hollywood and be Mr. Mom. But unfortunately, I lost everything.
The more you seek the uncomfortable, the more you will become comfortable.
And some of them are like the most heartbreaking and harrowing stories that I've ever heard.
For some of you guys, basketball is going to be your lives. And you're really, really fortunate.
Bust you up. Go for it.
You guys do it a little bit differently in terms of squaring that ball up.
If you are sick and tired of the conventional TV network, you've come to the right place.